All right, everybody. A lot to talk about today in this video. First off, we just got our final trailer for Superman yesterday. So that is what I'm going to start, that is what I'm going to start this video out with. Now, I have already given you my thoughts on I have already given you my thoughts on the first official trailer, that dropped. Yesterday, we just got our final trailer for Superman. Okay. Now, movies, usually how movies are, how movies are advertised, how movies work, we get, usually we get, a teaser trailer, we get an official trailer, and then we get a final trailer. So that is three trailers altogether. And now let's pretend let's pretend that I was impressed with the official trailer for Superman. Now, now if you watched my video on that, you know that I was not at all impressed with the official trailer for Superman. But let's pretend for a second that I was, okay? Let's pretend, for a second that I was. And, let's pretend for a second that I was. And I just watched this trailer. This trailer literally would have killed any hope that I originally had for this movie. And I'm going to tell you why. This movie literally is a full-on James Gunn movie. James Gunn is literally the most creatively bankrupt uh you know you know director in Hollywood. And the gun shills out there are saying, but we're finally getting, a comic book accurate Superman. Man of Steel, uh Man of Steel, was not at all comic accurate. Man of Steel, Man of Steel was a dumpster fire. Man of Steel was Man of Steel was, and they and this is what I love about, the gun shells. They continue to dump on Zack Snyder, you know, to this day when he literally hasn't been a part of DC now for 8 years. He has no say in all in what goes on at DC Studios nowadays. But let's pretend for a second, but again, let's pretend for a second that I was impressed with, the first official, trailer for Superman. This final trailer literally would have killed any hope that I originally had for this movie, because I am going to bring up some pictures that I took from the trailer. I can't show you, the trailer. I can't show you guys the trailer, but I can show you guys these pictures. I can show you guys these pictures. This is the type of goofy bullshit that James Gunn is known for. We have a picture here of Superman flying. Of Superman flying. Look how fucking goofy this looks. This looks ridiculous. You know, this looks like something you would see out of the Silver Age. And then I'm going to show you this other picture, which I cannot believe I still can't believe that this is what we're getting. It is fucking ridiculous. But look how fucking long his arms look in this shot of the trailer. Look how fucking bad that looks. He looks like Plastic Man. That is fucking ridiculous. And this is the type of goofy bullshit that James Gunn is known for. I have been arguing with people about this for months now, trying to explain to them that James Gunn is a one-trick pony. He cannot help himself. When it comes to humor and goofy, juvenile bullshit, he cannot help himself. That is all he knows how to do. And I've been trying to explain this to people for months now. He is not just going to all of a sudden change his ways, because it's a Superman movie. When you look at, there's a shot in the trailer of Superman. Excuse me. There's a shot in the trailer of Superman, laying laying on the ground, beat up. And Mr. Terrific comes over and Mr. Terrific, comes over to him and goes, oh, and says to him, and literally says to him, get up, stop goofing around. And Superman goes, I'm not. And Superman goes, I'm not. I'm taking care of important stuff. And he's literally just, fucking lying there, with rubble and stuff, with rubble and stuff, on top of him. And, and he's laying there, like he's resting. That is not Superman. That is not Superman. You have another scene in the trailer. Where he's in a fight, with a villain, and Krypto is in the shot, and Superman comes in, for a 1-2 punch, and Superman punches the guy so hard, and Superman, punches the guy so hard, that his teeth, that the guy's teeth literally go flying at the screen. Superman wouldn't do something like that. Superman, whenever Superman fights someone, whenever Superman is fighting a villain, he is holding back. Superman, obviously, he doesn't do what he does to hurt people. He's not, Superman is not Batman. Superman does not go around hurting people. And, so to have a shot like that in the trailer, it's not only cruel, but it completely goes against who Superman is as a character. And, and it is not something Superman would do. The only time, really, one of the only times that you would see something like that, obviously, is, and yes, I know this is, years ago, but, the only time that you would see something like that, where Superman didn't hold back is obviously in The Death of Superman, or something like, or something, like out of continuity, like, or something, out of continuity, like Injustice, where Superman end up killing, the Joker. But again, that's, out of continuity. It's not even canon. But, but, but my point is, Superman wouldn't do something like that. And there's another scene in the trailer. There's another scene in the trailer that shows Lois Lane flying, fucking Mr. Terrific's plane, with no issues at all. And it's stupid. And it's stupid. And this, it's stupid. And it's not, this literally feels like something out of the Silver Age. You can't, it's like, it's like you can't go back to that time period. You need to move forward. And, and it's fucking ridiculous what this movie is doing. And, and something else I would like to bring up is James Gunn has confirmed that a Wonder Woman project is now happening. And I actually saw this a while ago. I think it might have been last month. It might have been the month before that. I don't remember. But I saw it. But I did hear that James Gunn was gearing up to lie about a Wonder Woman announcement. And sure enough, here we are. This Wonder Woman project is not going to happen. And he also confirmed that he also confirmed that he is currently writing basically a follow-up to Superman, which he very heavily hinted is a World's Finest movie. This, I think, is pretty much everybody's worst nightmare come true. Because James Gunn, if you look at, I urge people to go, anybody who's watching this, I urge them to go, to go online and try to find what James Gunn has said about his past, about the previous interpretations of Batman, that we've gotten in the past. Because the only Batman that this fucking retard likes is George Clooney's Batman, which is easily the worst interpretation of Batman that we have ever gotten. And, so if we end up getting a Batman that feels, again, James Gunn can't help himself. It's what he does. It's all he knows. Nobody is going to want to see a Batman that feels, nobody's going to want to see a Batman, in today's day and age that feels like, that feels like, like the Adam West era, or that feels like, or that feels like, Joel Schumacher's Batman all over again. And I talked about this in a previous video. I know I did, but I still remember, I still remember, back, I still remember, back in 2005, around the time that, that Batman Begins, was being promoted, and, and all this other stuff. I still remember all the hate, um, that Christian Bale originally got as Batman. Like when he was first brought in. And he had, Christian Bale literally originally, he had everybody, from the general audience to even, to even his own friends and family, laughing at him originally when he was first cast, as Batman, because, obviously before, uh, because obviously, the only Batman that we got, before, Nolan's Batman was obviously, Joel Schumacher's Batman, which, everybody hated. And and both, um, Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan literally had to go out of their way and reassure people that, no, that's not what we're doing. We're going to take it serious. Uh, we're going to take it serious. We're going to, it's going to be dark. It's going to be, uh, they literally had to go out of their way to reassure people that they were not getting a retreading of Joel Schumacher's Batman. And, and when you look at, so to say, that James Gunn is going to do Batman justice is fucking ridiculous. Because, and I know I say this in just about every single, DC update that I do, but James Gunn doesn't do DC characters justice. He bastardizes them. He did it with Peacemaker. He did it with the Suicide Squad. He did it with Creature Commandos. He did it with the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's done it with literally every single comic book character, that he has ever, brought to life on screen. It's all he knows. It's what he does. And, and when you look at, again, when you look at, like the Dark Knight trilogy, the Batman, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Aquaman, the first Shazam movie, all of those movies, were taken seriously. And this is, movies, obviously, like Aquaman, yes, might have had humor in them. They might have had, like moments of humor, but they were, but the movie itself was not an all out comedy. Aquaman 2 was an all out comedy, and that was one of the reasons why it failed. you know um the fucking, Flash movie, I that's another thing that I'm going to bring up, because there is all this false and manufactured hype going on right now, very very similar to the Flash. and very 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 similar to the Flash. And there are reports going on right now saying that Superman tickets are causing Fandango to crash, and Superman um and Superman is the number one hit. Superman is the number one hit on Fandango right now, ticket sales wise, and the website's crashing, and all this other bullshit. I am going to show you guys some some screenshots that I took, and how tickets are not selling out right now. This is a screenshot that I took of the Fandango website, and the only tickets that have sold out, you probably can't see it in the picture, but the only but if you look at, you probably can't see it. Let me try enlarging the image. So so the blue all the blue boxes are empty seats. And if you look at the X's in the fifth and seventh row of this picture, those are literally the only tickets that have been sold. Everything else is empty. Everything else is empty. And here's another one. And here's another one. Now, granted, yes, more tickets, were bought here in this picture than in the other one that I just showed you, but still, that's a lot of empty seats. And, and the gun shells are obviously going to say, oh, but it's New York and LA are still are already sold out, and all this other bullshit. From what I understand, it doesn't matter what movie it is. Movie theater tickets for movie theater tickets in LA and New York always sell out no matter what movie it is. So, so you can't really use that as an argument. The ticket sales, the ticket sales as well. Ticket prices have gone up. I have seen a couple, I have seen, in the videos that I have seen, where people talk about buying tickets for this movie, like one guy that I watch, I won't mention his name, but one guy that I watch who's actually very very reliable, he literally spent like $40 on his tickets. And there was a guy in another country that actually tweeted at James Gunn and said, hey, I went to buy, I went to try to buy, tickets for Superman, but they were like $30 each. And I can't afford that. So, and, and that's another, and, and another thing to consider is, yes, ticket sales have gone up, but also another thing to consider is, another thing to consider is movie theaters take 50% of that money. They take, 50% of the ticket sales. This is how, movie theaters, make their money. And and another thing to keep in mind is you have another really, really big major movie that's coming out a week before, Superman, and that is Jurassic World, which I know is going to be a huge friggin' opening weekend. And I can tell you right now, a lot more people are excited. A lot more people are excited for, a lot more people are excited for Jurassic World than they are for Superman. And, and another thing I want to bring up is another thing that I want to bring up is The Flash. The Flash, you know, The Flash went through literally the same exact thing as Superman is going through right now. It is all the false and manufactured hype cooked up by Warner Brothers to get people to buy tickets. And, and I have, and I know I've mentioned this before, but a lot of people were making fun of, anybody, um, before The Flash came out. There were a lot of people, bad mouthing the movie. Um, there were a lot of people, bad mouthing the movie, saying, that it looked horrible, the special effects looked horrible, and yada yada yada, and and literally everybody was making fun of, everybody who would badmouth the movie online. And then the movie came out, and then sure enough, The Flash came out, and then they pulled it from theaters literally like a week after its release. And then, and then fucking, and then fucking, Andy Muschietti, uh, came out, came out, with his, fucking retarded reason, for why, for why the movie failed, literally blaming women, as literally blaming, women, for not caring about, the character, and not, or and not being, and not being, interested in the character. And I can, and I'm telling you guys right now, I wouldn't be at all surprised at all surprised if something like this, were to happen for, Superman after it came out. And another thing that I want to go back to, talking about the Superman trailer, because there were a couple of things that I didn't mention from the trailer. In one shot in the movie, you have like redness around Superman's eyes, and it looks like, um, you have, like redness around like Superman's eyes, like his eyes, like his eyes are, like his eyes are all red. He has, like this like red mark over, over his eyes, from using his heat vision. When in the fuck have you ever seen Superman with a red mark over his eyes after he just used his heat vision? That is so fucking stupid. You know, this is the kind of thing that James Gunn does. Another thing that you have in this trailer is Superman in a fight, and he uses his heat vision to fucking kill some people. What the fuck is this? This is not a Superman movie. I mean, this is not a Superman movie. You know, this is, and and believe it or not, a long time ago, excuse me, James Gunn actually said that he had no interest in doing Superman. He was more interested in the, in the more obscure, less known, uh, you know, less known, obscure characters, and telling, and telling their stories. And he also originally said that he was not interested in running DC Studios. And just literally, he fucking dances around everything that he says. It's like everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Everything that comes out of everything that comes out of his mouth, literally just completely contradicts the other. And I'm just, and and I have never seen another comic book movie in this day and age, made fun of, literally from the minute it was revealed to literally still around the time the movie was coming out. And and I got to tell you guys, seriously, like, I have never seen anything like it. Never, ever. I have never seen, and yes, I mean, obviously, I have seen, I've obviously seen, people, make fun of, comic book movies, in the past, but never, ever, ever, ever to this extent. Never, ever, ever to this extent. I mean, literally, but I'm, literally, when they first, when that first official reveal dropped of, of David Cornsweet, in the suit, literally people had a field day with that, with that picture, and they were making memes for it, like, up the ass, and they still are. And they still are. People are making, people are taking, the posters, and they're taking, like, the posters and the, and they're taking, like, how certain characters will look in the movie, and they're making it into something else. Like, let me show you, like, some of the, like, some of the memes that I have here. And I will show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. You have, like this. This one's actually pretty funny. you have this one right here where and this you have this one because a lot of people are calling, excuse me, a lot of people are calling, this version of Superman, a lot of people are calling this version of Superman, Diaper Man, because, because the trunks look like a diaper. You have this one I thought was pretty funny. Um, this one I thought was pretty funny. You have Krypto. You have Krypto literally peeing on Superman. I mean, just this movie is just so fucking ridiculous. Um, this movie is just so fucking ridiculous. Um, you have you have this one of Superman waving, and everyone is giving Superman the finger. Um, you have this one of Superman literally in a wetsuit, in a swimsuit and goggles. This one I thought was pretty funny. Um, you have this one, actually, speaking of Diaper Man. This is something that someone made. Um, so you see what I'm getting at. You see what I'm getting at. We are less than a month away from this movie's release, and people are literally still making fun of this movie in this day and age. There is no version of this where this movie comes out on top. I am telling you right now, this movie is going to fucking fail. And it is going to fail badly. It is going to fail badly. And I mean, just, everything about it. The costumes look like shit. They look like, Hawk Girls, I think, is literally the worst looking one. Is literally, the worst looking one. Her helmet looks like it was made out of styrofoam. I mean, just everybody's these are literally the worst fucking looking costumes I have seen in a very long time. In a very, very long time. And and the movie itself, it looks like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is not something that I want in a Superman movie. And this literally looks like a cheaper, uh a much cheaper take on the MCU. And if I were to tell you guys the budget for this movie, you would not believe it. You would not believe it. You would literally be like, well, where did all the money go if they had, this kind of budget? And I mean, yeah, I just, and and in all honesty, guys, I have never been more excited to see a movie fail, because I am so fucking tired of the garbage, that Warner Brothers, has been feeding us now for the past, what is it now? 7 years, 8 years? Yeah, 8 years. Um, the only good, DC movies, the only good DC movies to come out of, the fucking, Walter Hamada era were Black Adam, um, were Black Adam, Aquaman, the first one, Shazam, the first one, obviously. Um, Joker, the first one, obviously. Um, and then Matt Reeves, and then Matt Reeves, the Batman, which obviously, uh, was long after, was obviously long after, the, was long after, the Walter Hamada, stuff. Um, but yeah, no, I cannot believe that, that this is, that this is what we're getting, in this day and age. It's embarrassing. And, um, and I do think, and I do think that this movie, and I do think, that after this movie comes out, and it fails, Warner Brothers is going to burn to the ground. And honestly, I really can't wait for that to happen, because I'm tired of Warner Brothers. I am sick and tired, of them just, fucking, pissing all over, the fan base and everything else. See, this is what it's like we live in a day and age now where these we live in a day and age now where we live in a day and age now where when a major company fucks up, like when a major company fucks up and makes a steaming pile of horse shit, it's not their fault, it's the fans' fault. It's not, it's not their fault, it's the fans' fault. It's our fault because we didn't want to support the fucking dog shit that Warner Brothers was cooking up. You know, the fan base are the fan base is not the enemy. Okay? The fan base, literally the only reason why this stuff, has been able to continue for as long as it has is because of the fans. The fans are what keep this stuff alive. You know, it's because of the fans, you know, it's because of the fans, it's because, the fans keep coming back that this stuff keeps going. Now, granted, now granted again, now granted again, comic book movies, are dying out, and people, are sick and tired of comic book movies. But I do think that if they were to put, if Warner Brothers were to put in, more of an effort, if they were actually able, if they were actually willing, to take a step back and say, you know what, we need to reevaluate our entire, situation, and we need to take a look at, and we need to take a look at, like all the damage that we've been doing, all the fans, all the fans that we've been, all the fans that we've been, alienating and pissing off, for the past, X amount of years now. If they were to do that, I think that they would genuinely have a shot at, uh, I think that they would genuinely have a shot at putting out, at putting out something, that would make, fans happy, that would make fans want to come back. But, but because Warner Brothers is so allergic to making money, and because Warner Brothers obviously has proven to us time and time again that they don't care what we think, it's it's because they haven't been listening to us for so long now that they are in this mess. They are over, Warner Brothers is over 30 million in debt right now. They are on the verge of bankruptcy. And and I'm just, literally, I just, again, I have never been more excited to see a movie fail. And I want this movie to crash and burn. I want, I want this movie to crash and burn. I want Warner Brothers to burn to the ground. I want them, to get what they deserve, and they have done they have done so much damage now for years. And it's just, it's exhausting. And it's exhausting, and it doesn't. And another thing that I want to bring up is San Diego Comic-Con, which takes place next month. The only thing that they are showing off at San Diego Comic-Con is Peacemaker Season 2. Lanterns won't be there, and Supergirl won't be there. This is James Gunn making everything about James Gunn. You don't think that maybe it would be a good idea, to give people a glimpse at what Supergirl and Lanterns are going to be like? You don't think that maybe it would be a good idea, to show something off? But no, instead, all we're getting is fucking Peacemaker, which literally nobody gives a shit about. I mean, this entire DCU is in shambles. It is. It's just the entire fan base, this entire DCU is in fucking shambles. I have never seen, I have never seen, the DC fan base, in such, in such turmoil. The only people, who are obviously, eating all this up are the fucking retarded, gun shills, who just continue to eat up, everything, that James Gunn, says and does. And it, and I'm just, and literally, I'm just, I'm literally at the end of my rope with just, with James Gunn, and, and just literally anybody who supports him, because I'm so sick and tired of, I'm so fucking tired of everything, being needing. I'm so fucking tired of everything, needing to be a joke. That's not, that's not what these characters stand for. That's not what they represent. And, and again, all I can say is, the sooner this movie comes out, the sooner that it crashes and burns, the better. The better, because Warner Brothers is really, on its last legs, and Superman is definitely going to be their last stand. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the end of them as we know it. And if you ask me, frankly, it wasn't soon enough. But, but again, we'll see. But again, we'll see, less than a month until this piece of shit, hits theaters. Um, I still don't know whether or not I'm gonna, I still don't know whether or not I'm gonna be able to, I still don't know if I'm gonna be able to, to sit through it. Um, I do know though that Warner Brothers has really, really, really interfered with this movie. Um, stuff has been cut out. Um, from what I understand, a lot of the fucking goofy, juvenile humor has been cut out. Thank God. Um, and they are Warner Brothers is really just going to town on reworking as much of this movie as they possibly can. Um, because they know this movie's not going to be a hit, with audiences. They totally know it. Um, which again, it blows my mind. It completely blows my mind, that they even brought this fucking moron in, in the first place. Uh, and, and it's like, and I think, you would think that after the failure of the Suicide Squad, they would have learned their lesson, because the Suicide Squad, yes, it came out, during the pandemic, but there were plenty of other movies that came out during the pandemic, that made studios money. You know, Godzilla versus Kong was like the eighth uh highest grossing movie in 2021. So that there were plenty of other movies that came out during the pandemic, that made studios money. James Gunn Suicide Squad, you know, James Gunn Suicide Squad, you know, you know, did not make money. Nobody nobody gave a shit about that movie. And and you would think, after that, after something like that, a light would have gone off in their head saying, "Up, wait, wait, this guy already did a comic book movie for us. It didn't work out so well, so maybe we shouldn't hire him." But nope, that's unfortunately not the way Warner Brothers works. Unfortunately. And this is Warner Brothers burning to the ground. This is them burning to the ground. Fuckers. But yeah, anyway, I will, of course, keep you guys updated. I will keep you posted as more info comes out. Um, and yeah, so, like, subscribe, let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.